Okay, so now without further ado, so we will start our speech today. 我们今天的第一位主讲人呢是 Barash 博士，他毕业于普林斯顿大学的英语博士专业，曾担任罗格斯大学的招生官，并在2010年呢创办了大学文书及写作辅导公司 Story To College。多年来呢，帮助众多的学子写出了真实感人的申请文书，从而敲开了入学的大门。Our first speaker is going to be Dr. Barash. Dr. Barash graduated from the Yale University with a bachelor degree in English and later obtained her PhD from Princeton University. He used to teach at Princeton, the University of Michigan, and Rutgers. She was the faculty advisor to the Douglas College Admissions Committee at Rutgers University. She founded Story To College in 2010 to teach students from around the world how to write a powerful college essays. So now let's welcome Dr. Barash.
Good afternoon. Is this on? Yeah. Okay. And everybody can hear me in the back? Yeah? You can hear me? Awesome. Okay. So, thank you so much for being here on a Saturday afternoon. It's sunny and there's lots of other places you could be. So I am going to shed some light on the admissions process and particularly the unique role that personal essays play in the United States college admissions process. So first of all, I just want to ask, how many parents here went to college in the United States? Raise your hand if you went to college in the United States. Okay. And how many parents here went to college outside the United States? Okay. So the first thing I want to explain is that, like lots of things, the admissions process in the United States is different from every place else on the planet. England gets close, Australia gets close, but in fact every place else, if you have higher test scores, you get into a better college. But in the United States, they do something called holistic admissions, like the word whole. They look at the whole person. And so, even if you're a student with perfect grades and standardized test scores, you still need to show who you are as a person. There's other parts of the application that are really important and help to distinguish you between thousands of other students who are also students with great grades and great test scores. So it's a really unique system. And they're looking for students' character. They're looking for who are you going to be when you arrive on campus, who's the person who shows up. What is it that you do, what you contribute to the community, that you uniquely alone bring. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how you write that specific kind of first-person essay, okay? Now before I get started, first of all, if I ask a question, I prefer if students answer, because I know the parents probably know the answers, but My job is to get the students to college. So, and it's okay to make mistakes, so just say whatever's on your mind. That's first of all. And second of all, students, what do you want to know? Like, ask me anything about college admissions. What would count as success? Your parents dragged you here on a sunny afternoon. You could be doing lots of other things. What would you like to get out of the next 45 minutes? Anybody? Any parents? Anything on your minds? Yeah?
Is there any difference when you write an essay for admission to a middle level university versus an Ivy League?
Okay, so the question is whether there's a difference between Ivy League essays and other essays. That's a great question. I'll address that. Anybody else have things on their mind they'd like me to talk about? You have another question, okay.
It's a bit abstract when you say holistic to me. So, is there any quantitative personality?
I can answer your question, I think. Let me try, and if I don't, I'll come back to you again. So, when I worked admissions at Rutgers, the admissions worked in two steps. I was a faculty member in the English department. So every year, the faculty members of the admissions committee decided what counted as academically qualified to attend Rutgers. And every year, they do the same thing at Harvard, they do the same thing at Yale. Every college has its own algorithm, its own formula that they use to decide who's academically qualified. Now, once you're academically qualified, it doesn't really matter if you're more or less academically qualified. Then everything else kicks in. Do you play the violin? Are you the quarterback on the football team? If you're not academically qualified, you're not going to get in. But there's a very wide range of what counts as academically qualified. It's different at every place. Once you're academically qualified, they're looking at everything else. Did that answer your question? Thank you. Okay. All right, so let me get started. So the US system is different. And when I started Story to College in 2011, my goal was to teach students from all different backgrounds and all around the world how to tell their own stories. What are the moments in a person's life that make them who they are? Now, this information doesn't show up anywhere else on your college application. On your resume, you list your activities. In the achievement section, you list your awards. But the things that have really formed you as who you are, maybe it's tutoring, maybe it's a conversation with your grandmother, maybe it's that you lost someone who was important to you. But those moments in your life, when you look back later and you've changed, helping students to trust themselves and to trust other people and to talk about those moments. So, at Story to College, we don't write students' essays. We don't edit students' essays, though we teach students how to edit their own essays. The big thing that we do is we help students find the stories that really make them who they are, to tell those stories out loud so they can tell them to other people in interviews and on dates and wherever, and then to write them in their own voice in their college admissions and scholarship essays. And we've worked with over 14,000 students around the world. This summer, we're part of a program with Kaplan, the test prep people, and a company called TechStars, to take the courses that we had taught offline and to put them online. So we have a new website called story2.com, and anybody can use that website to go through the essay process. If you're a senior in high school and need to finish your essays this year, come and we'll help you. All right. So, who am I? It's February 1975. And my boyfriend drives me home from school in his brother's silver blue Corvette. And as he's getting out of the car, I say, Ed, you can come back later, but I need to spend some time with my father. And I walk in the back door. The door of our house was never locked. I walked in the back door, put my backpack on the kitchen table, and I heard my father's voice from the living room, and he said, Carol, honey, come quickly, I want to see you, come now. Okay, Dad, I'll be there in a second, I'm just making some tea. Can I bring you some? No, I just want to see you. So I brought my tea into the living room, and when my father was sitting in the same chair he was sitting in after I brought him lunch. And he had some of his lunch was on his pajamas. And his stomach was very bloated, and he had a purple rash on his face. And when I went to kiss him, his breath was like he hadn't brushed his teeth. And so I turned my head away and I kissed his cheek instead of his lips. And I said, Daddy, how are you doing? And he said, now that you're home, I feel like $1,000,000. I've been waiting for you all afternoon. And I sat down on the couch, which smelled like my mother's cigarettes. And my father said, there's something really important I have to tell you. When your mother and I went to college, we didn't have any money. And we were the first people in our families to go to college. So we didn't have a lot of choices. And when your mom went to college, there were very few places that girls could go to college. But you can go anywhere. He said, even if I'm not there to see you, I want you to remember you can go anywhere. Oh, Dad, don't worry, you're gonna get better. You'll be there. You'll be there with me, don't worry. He said, well, just in case. And then he winked. The next fall, when my mother took me to my dorm at Yale, she pulled out of her pocket my father's watch, and she gave it to me. And she said, tuck this in your drawer, and remember how much he wanted you to be here. So, when you tell stories about your own experience, you connect them with them in a way that nothing else can do. And what I'm going to do today is teach you 5 tools that you can use. Anytime, parents, you can use this too, these 5 tools. Anytime you need to get from point A to point B. Anytime you need to convince people to believe in you to do something you've never done before, based on what you've already done. Okay? Now, first of all, why storytelling? What is it about stories? When you tell your story out loud, 3 things happen in your brain all at once. Your memories are triggered, The emotions associated with those memories are triggered, and you want to take action. And when I listen to your story, this is somebody on the top is somebody telling a story. That's a functional MRI of their brain. And this is, the listener is yellow, mapped right on top of the speaker who's orange. So when I listen to your story, those same three things happen in my brain. My memories are triggered, my emotions are triggered, and I want to act. It's called mental mirroring. Stories unleash our most powerful form of human communication. It works across cultures. It works between people who don't agree about anything else. Stories connect us at our most basic human level. And here's why. You never met my father, right? You certainly, most of you weren't born in 1975. But when I tell you a story about my father, you start to remember things about your parents, or maybe somebody who was sick, or maybe somebody who died, or maybe your own desire to go to college. My story triggers lots of different things in you, and you start filling in the pieces through your own memory. It's like you remember my story with your own experience. Mental mirroring. And that's why stories are so powerful. And in college admissions, even more powerful, because remember that they want to take action part of those three things that happen in your brain? The person who reads your story, the only action they can take is to move you forward in the admissions process. If they feel like they know you and they want you to be part of their community, there's only one action they can take, and that's to push you forward, and it's a good thing. But storytelling comes from a different part of your brain than the part we use most of the time. When we're worried about data, numbers, when we're worried about getting better test scores, when we're chasing facts and figures and text messages, we're not using the part of the brain that tells stories. So when you go to work on your college admissions essays, this refresh is a reminder that you want to create an open space. It's like you want to erase all that other fast-moving, data-chasing part of your brain. It's like you want to erase it and put it to the side and open up a space where you can really explore your past experience. You can really remember what happened to you in the past and tell it honestly and authentically to other people. So before you start working, students, before you start working on your college essays, just do whatever you like to do to kind of just clear out the clutter of your other work. Maybe it's take a little walk, maybe it's take a shower, maybe you have a song that you like to listen to. But create a space that's really an open space to explore what comes up from your past to share with other people in the admissions process. And just take a moment right now and just think of something from your past that's important that you might like to explore. So today when I say, like when I teach you magnet pivot glow, I'm going to teach you exercises. You'll have something, a memory that you're working on. Just, there's no right or wrong answer. Just think of something, take a second and think of something. So when I am talking about things, they're not theoretical, but you're actually working with a moment from your own experience. Okay, so I told you that the role of the essays is to build a bridge. It's to make a connection between what you've done in the past and what you will do in the future. Because you've probably never gone to college before. Never had a college major before. So what is it that you've done that gives colleges reason to believe who you'll be and what you'll do in the future? essays are saying to a college, because I've done this, you can count on me to do that. So instead of saying I'm passionate about the environment, you're going to tell a story about when you cleaned up trash or started a solar heater, or you're going to tell a story that shows us about your commitments. A lot of students think, and a lot of parents think, that they should write essays about achievements, winning the science fair, getting the best grade in calculus, maybe winning the swim team or golf. And all those things are fantastic, but great essays don't come from your achievements. They come from your spirit. They come from the things that make you who you are as a human being. When you show up on a college campus, what shows up with you? What is it that you will do and you will bring that nobody else on the planet can do? These crazy college essays that you only need to write in the United States are an opportunity to explore that you-ness. Who is it, what is it that makes you you? It's really important. It's bigger than getting into college, but college is a chance to explore this for the first time. Okay. So there's three things that college admissions officers say they're looking for in your essays. So literally, tell your story out loud. When you come to our website and you do the process on your own, with or without feedback, part of it is you're going to tell your story out loud. And we're going to guide you through that process because it accesses all sorts of quirky, wonderful things that makes your voice your own. Each and every one of you. Okay. Story Showdown. Does everybody have a copy of Story Showdown? Who needs them? Raise your hands. Can somebody help me? If you have a folder, it's in the folder. And if you just have this one, yeah, that's great. Just if you want the whole folder, you can have it. If not, you just need this piece of paper. And then I need 2 brave students. Please. I need a brave student 1 and brave student 2. Just come on up, brave students. I will cold call if you don't volunteer. Who wants to come? Yeah, great. Okay, and 1 guy. 1 brave man, young man. Yeah, great, come on. All right, what's your name? Catherine, hello. All right, so will you please, oh, perfect, thank you. Will you please read Broaden Horizons, Catherine? Yes. And you guys, when she's reading, if you don't have a pen, don't worry about it. But if you have a pen, circle the things in this essay. This is a story showdown. These are 2 real college admissions essays. And your job at the end, you're going to pretend you're an admissions committee and you can only admit one of them. Their grades are the same, their test scores are the same, and their activities are the same. So this is it. You got to decide between these 2 people. So just as they're reading, circle things that you think you might remember a month from now. Okay, Catherine.
During the summer after my sophomore year of high school, I was fortunate enough to visit France. My parents thought that visit France, take some classes at the American University of Paris. At first, I didn't want to go. After a long year of classes, I was looking forward to relaxing with my friends and enjoying my summer. But my mom told me that this would be a good experience and that spending time in France could help my grades in French, so I finally agreed to go. When I first arrived in France, it was very overwhelming. All of the signs were in French and people spoke very fast. Thankfully, the cab driver had heard of the American University of Paris and took me to the registration building. Imagine my surprise when all the signs at the university were also in French. Even the woman at the registration desk spoke French to me. At that moment, I knew that this would be a difficult but rewarding experience. Thankfully, my photography class was taught in English. However, my French course was almost all in French, but that wasn't the only place where I had to adapt. Being in a foreign country forced me to get outside my comfort zone. At first, I was too scared to even order a muffin from the bakery, but soon I learned how to survive in Paris. For example, every morning I would go to the bakery across the street from our hotel and order my breakfast. I was also able to take the subway with my friends. By far, the best part of the experience was the people I met. My roommate, Sarah, and I got along so well and had a lot in common. Sometimes we would stay up late talking for hours on end, but we also knew it was important for us to meet as many new people as possible. So we branched out, introduced ourselves to the other students, and formed our own little group with the girls on my floor. 4 of them were from the East Coast, and 1 was from Texas. The rest were from other countries. I was only in Paris for 2 weeks, and yet I made friends that I know I will keep for the rest of my life. When the time came to leave France, I was actually sad. In only 2 short weeks, I had grown to love Paris. At that moment, I knew that my outlook had changed forever. I couldn't believe that at first I didn't want to go to Paris, but now I am so glad I went. It has opened my eyes up to a whole new world that I had never seen before. Being in France broadened my horizons and taught me that there are different cultures in the world that I want to learn about. Also, I learned that I'm a people person and that I can get along with people from different states and different countries, even if we are completely different. The most important thing I learned in Paris was that we all might seem different, but we're really all the same.
Thank you. Okay, and you are?
Cal.
Okay, Cal. Would you please repeat the Snapchat?
I can make a mean hamburger. In fact, I'm a professional. I have 4 years of professional hamburger experience. For the last 4 years of my life, I've worked at the world-famous Carlsbad State Beach Snack Bar. For 24 hours a week, I'm behind the worn-down white counter, taking customers' orders through the sand-beaten windows that house our gourmet menu of hamburgers and chili dogs. I came to the snack shack looking for work at the astute age of 13. I'd grown up at Carlsbad State Beach. I caught my first wave there and had my summer after seeing Jaws there. We all remember what that was like. And I'd order hundreds of corn dogs from that very snack bar. So I went up to the window with my best bud Joel and asked about jobs. The owner, Mr. Hansen, sat us down next to his desk as we prepared ourselves to answer questions about our leadership skills, integrity, and work ethic. Instead, he tested our basic addition skills. We proved that we could add the costs of 2 nachos and 2 Cokes together. That was it. We had ourselves a job. In the years that followed, I took on as much responsibility as one can earn at a snack shack. I've opened, closed, and run the shop solo against the largest of Friday night crowds. It's not all burgers and fries at the snack shack. In fact, I've worked some very interesting shifts. Once a week, I get the 3 12-year-old girls, unfortunately for me, they never get any older, who come to my window 5 times a day to order the cheapest thing on the menu just so they can ask me if I have a girlfriend. I once had a guy come up to the window and ask me for papers. This threw me for a moment. Like a newspaper, I said? No, dude, like, you know, papers, he said again. A paper bag? He started to lose his patience with me and snapped. Listen, man, I've got some weed and I need some rolling paper. I told him I could not help with that, but assured him I could assist him if he were to get the munchies later on. I was working the night we were robbed. I immediately called my boss, told him what had happened, and did the next thing that came to my mind. I chased the guy. I ran up the beach stairs, spotted the culprit, chased him down the street, tackled him, and got all our money back. I was 14 years old. So now I'm actually kind of famous at the snack bar. All the new employees know who I am before they ever meet me. Mr. Hansen talks about me all the time as the kid who sang in the school musical, the actor, he who brings fears to all amateur criminals, or any of my shack aliases. I've enjoyed my time at the snack bar. I love arriving at the beach half an hour before my boss so I can sit and listen to the waves. I love to take charge when it gets so busy that everyone is running around in hamburger pandemonium. I love telling customers we're not allowed to accept tips after they insist on leaving their spare quarter. I can't blame them. I do prepare the finest burger within a 50-mile radius. I don't think I'll be taking my snack shack skills to the next level by making a career of hot dogs and nachos. But don't worry, if someone in my dorm needs a double cheeseburger deluxe to get them through finals, I'll be right there with my spatula. After all, I'm a professional.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you did a great job, right? Okay, so how many would admit broaden horizons? Raise your hands high. That's it? 3, 4, anybody else? Broaden horizons, high, high, high. Okay, and who would admit Snack Shack? Okay, so you guys who would admit broaden horizons, tell me why. Yep.
I feel like it's moral, like she's showing why, not exactly showing, kind of like him. I also feel I don't like this by reading his story. I don't really like his personality. He keeps saying professional. It makes me feel like he's an arrogant person.
You don't like his personality? So that's actually a really important thing. Okay, just hang on to that for a second. The people who read your essays at colleges are human beings. And they don't love everybody. They might not like you. It's okay, there's lots of colleges. You'll get into places. There'll be lots of places where people like you. But if you try to make yourself somebody that everybody likes, well, very quickly you won't be yourself, which is always a mistake. But you'll never make everybody happy anyway. So it's great that you said that. It's fantastic. You just didn't like Mr. Snack Shack because you thought he was arrogant. Yeah?
Arrogant.
Arrogant, okay. Anybody else made a reason, either positive or negative, to admit broaden horizons? There's hands over here. Who was it? Yep.
I think this story shows that the girl has a great potential for growth. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You said she has great potential for growth, yeah?
And, the story shows how the girl finds herself, how she approaches the world.
Right, in her 2 weeks in France.
Right, it makes a huge difference.
2 weeks in France, her life was changed forever.
Yeah, and the story is really interesting and really make you, like the person.
Interesting and makes you like her. Okay, so that's...
The burger guy, you might make people want to eat some burgers at this.
So it does make you hungry sometimes. Okay, so people who, anybody else want to speak up for broaden horizons? Snack Shack. Who wants to say why they would pick him? Yep.
I would pick Snack Shack because while the first story about broaden horizons it's very well written, but it's kind of generic. It's the same story of a girl who goes to school, or travels outside the country, meets some people, and learns something. It's a very good story, but it's not very unique. The second one, I feel the narrator is more proactive. His parents didn't make him sign up to work at a snack shack. He himself decided to go there. And
okay, pause right there. Pause right there. Difference between her parents sent her to Paris, and then the kid went on his own, applied for a job, got the job, worked there for 3 years, right? 3 summers in a row. Okay, student initiative. Anything else?
Yes. In general, I think that this tells a different story. It doesn't try to tell about an award or achievement. It simply tries to talk about the experiences that would otherwise be a very mundane job, talking about why he enjoys it and what that says about him. So I think that the fact that he's talking about this at a new angle indicates that he's creative, that he knows what he wants, and that he'd be a good fit at the university.
He's creative, he knows what he wants, he'd be a good fit. Okay. You sound like an admissions officer. Anybody else want to speak up on behalf of Snack Shack? Yep.
I see the leadership role he has, and also I think it's more authentic story.
More authentic and more... Did he ever say, I'm a great leader? Did he say, I had this amazing experience working for 3 years, learned all this responsibility? What else do you learn about him, by the way? Leadership, I think, yes. What is the part that shows leadership?
I think he went trying to get a job on his own. That's leadership role, I can see.
Close down the shop. hamburger pandemonium. He likes organizing things when they get disorderly. Yeah, lots of little details. What else do you learn about him?
He was very brave because he took down the thief.
Yeah, he took out a robber. Yeah, and he didn't say I was brave one night, right? He didn't have to tell you he was brave. He's like a little insane, maybe, but great sense of humor, yes. Yeah, very funny. Quirky, right? You can't fake that kind of humor, right? If that's your voice, that's your voice. Like when I was that age, I was not funny at all. I've been working on it ever since. I was not funny then. Anything else? Which of these kids, if you read these essays today and then didn't look at them again for a month, which of these people do you think you'd be more likely to remember a month from now? Snack Shack, and why is that? What would you remember? Which details from this would you remember?
I'm trying to say the second one is too long.
His sentences are too long?
Obviously, I have no patience to read the whole story.
So you're impatient. Okay. Yeah?
Bravery.
Say again?
Bravery.
Bravery, you remember his bravery? Are there any details you remember? Yeah, you'd love him to cook for you. I know. I'd like to be married to him, actually. Yeah, any other details? So my favorite detail of this whole essay, there's actually two of them. It's when he's joking with the guy about the papers. And I'm surprised somebody didn't say, but wait a minute, he wrote about, you know, something he's not supposed to write about, right? I think most high school students have probably heard of these things, and I assure you that all college admissions officers have. He didn't smoke anything, right? He was just new kind of popular culture enough to joke with the guy. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine to live in the world you actually live in. You don't have to live in the perfect heaven where flawless children go, you know, in a life they don't actually live. It's okay to have your real life with its, what my mother calls gory details. The thing that I always come back to in this essay, he does have a sense of humor, he's very responsible, he's quirky. It's that he gets to work early and sits and watches the waves come in. I think I like it just because I like to do that, actually. But it also shows a side of his character that's like the opposite of the rest. Like it's just this odd moment of reflection in this essay that otherwise has a very funny, kind of fast-paced voice. And I think it shows another side of him, just in a sentence, which really shows how real it is. Like, it's actually, when you say it feels authentic, I think it's like sentences like that. Because you just, nobody else would think to put that in there. That's only because he actually likes it. And I like it because I like it. So anyway, all those things, the time and care you take to really make essays your own, not to make them perfect by somebody else's standards, but really to feel like it reflects who you are, it takes time and it really, really pays off. Thank you guys. Questions, yes?
One question to be asked at the end, or?
I'll take a couple questions now. Yeah.
So, what if the person has a really mundane story?
Yeah. So I always get asked this question. What if I, or what if my child, has never had any interesting experiences? They've just had this boring life where nothing happened. I didn't have that life. And you probably haven't had those lives either, but you guys are so busy like packaging yourselves to look perfect that you forget how interesting your lives actually are. Like really unique stuff happens like almost every moment of your life. When you just start paying attention, crazy things happen at the mall, at a bar mitzvah, you know, after the really hard chemistry test. Crazy things happen. Your friend, like Susan Zaroff, the party where she fell off of her shoes and broke her leg, right? It was crazy. I was the person who called the ambulance. I was like probably the only person who wasn't drunk. But like stuff happens, right? I could have written a college essay about that party. I wouldn't have had to say I was more responsible than my friends. I was just the only person who could take action in a moment of crisis in high school. You all have them. Lots of them. Probably hundreds of them. So your job is to find them and then embrace them. Because whatever your life is, it is. It's been given to you by some higher purpose that is mysterious to all of us. So enjoy it and live it and write about it.
Actually, I want to rephrase that question a bit. Let's say Snapchat come again a very much richer life experience side by side to you, and you could only admit one by one. What would you do?
So first of all, there's going to be lots of, in any admissions committee, there's going to be lots of amazing children who don't get admitted. There's no way you can completely suss out and win the system at every single college, so just don't even try. Just don't even try. It's exhausting and debilitating. But if you've done your job, you've done well in school, you've done well on your standardized tests, you're engaged in your community doing work, service, sports, whatever it is you love to do, music, and you write about who you are, you'll get into lots of schools. You'll have lots of good choices if you just embrace that, really. And on the, I haven't had any interesting experiences. One other thing is actually, I think that everyday experiences make better essays a lot of the time than sort of Superman experiences. Like the thing about broad horizons that's sort of cloying, and I read lots of essays like that when I was reading admissions folders, is you feel like she's taking this really tiny thing, 2 weeks, and turning it into like she works at the United Nations. She's, you know, her parents bought her a fancy trip to Paris. And by the way, parents, you don't have to buy fancy things for your kids to have good essays. If you want to send them to Paris, that's fine, but don't do it to fill their essays with fancy stuff. There were moments in there that could have, I'll come back to there were moments in her essay that could have been great, okay? All right, so what you want to do is take something very general, like, I know that my life was changed forever. That's a script. A couple of you said general, something that lots and lots of people can say. And you want to work with it and turn it into something, a story that's uniquely your own. Stella, you can, whenever you're, how much more time do we have?
The speech has 3 more time, then 3 more minutes, and we have 15 minutes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so a script is something that lots of people can say, and a story is something that's specific to you. The thing that makes Snack Shack so powerful is he takes you into very specific moments. The moment he got the job, the moment he ran after the robber, the moment with the rolling papers, and the moment sitting, listening to the waves come in. Very specific moments. He worked there for 3 years, but by pulling out those specific moments, he really gave a sense of how it shaped him and how he grew up over those 3 years. He started out this kid who had no idea what a job interview was like. And he ended up being the person who opened and closed, worked the register, told other people what to do. He didn't say, I matured. He showed you that maturation. She is on the outside of her experience, telling you what you're supposed to think. And in fact, when you do that, you shut down the reader's ability to take your story in. When you say things like, I thought, I realized, I knew, I felt. Remember that mental mirroring? You shut it off and just like a light switch. So if you want to draw your reader in, like a magnet, the beginning of your story should draw them in. And you want to show them action, pivot, something happens, go somewhere. And then leave them wanting to know you. It's like, this essay is so interesting. Like somebody said, I'd like him to be my roommate, right? Yeah, this kid would be fun to have on your hall. You can be sure he'd be fun. You know, you'd be studying, be exhausted, and he'd have a joke. You could count on it. It's the roommate test. When I worked in admissions, it's like, would she be a good roommate? What do you think she'd be like in class? If she showed up and what she wanted didn't exist, would she start it? Show the stories that give us a sense of what you're going to do when you're on a college campus. So specifics, actions, and not things in your mind, but things that happen in the real world. Everything that I am talking about today, there's exercises to do it yourself in my book, Write Out Loud, and our website, story2.com. You can go and everything that's, not everything that's in that book, but the process to write an essay is all there online. And I'd love to share it with you, and I'd love to have your feedback. So I'm going to stop now and answer your questions, and then I'll be here for a little while afterwards. Okay, questions? Yes?
Would this kind of essay be daring and bolding to turn off some of the officers? I would think that at least one-third of officers like this. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, so I'm going to repeat the question. So, isn't an essay like Snack Shack too bold? Isn't it dangerous and something that will turn off admissions officers? So, what do other people think? Anybody? So the answer is, in fact, I think it's really appealing. Admissions officers say, and I myself experienced, that 80%, 4 out of 5 essays they read are so boring and so generic that they don't do the kid any good at all. The one that actually gives you enough information to decide in that kid's favor is daring in some way. There is no all smoothed out, all perfect, all happily ever after essay that ever is powerful enough to do the job. I mean, the kid might get in anyway. You know, admissions is an art, not a science. But if you really want your essay to make a difference, if you want to be the person that an admissions committee says, I can't wait to meet this student. I just can't wait until they come to our campus. If you want them to feel that way, you have to reveal who you are in your essay. If you don't show who you are, they'll have no way of knowing who you are. So I think you have to be bold. This game is won by boldness, not insanity. Not like, you know, there was an article in the New York Times about some really horribly bad essays. It's not like get somebody's attention by doing something ridiculous. It's get them to know you by showing them who you really are. You've asked a lot of questions. I'm going to get some other people a chance first. Yeah.
I want to know how long the essay should be, how many stories should bring in, like what's the appropriate size for essay?
So the personal statement on most applications needs to be between 250 and 650 words. Sometimes it's 500. Some of the supplement essays are shorter. The University of California is 2,200 words. You can divide it up however you want. But it's different, but basically in a 250 to 500 word format. which is what you're aiming for, is a portfolio of stories that you can adapt to a lot of situations, like 1 or 2 moments, maybe 3. Actually, one of the things about Snack Shack, it's actually remarkable how many different moments he crams in there. I would never advise that. But that's the other thing, like we teach tools, not rules, because sometimes you're writing your own essay and things happen.
It says limit to about 500 words. Is it okay to go over a little bit, or you have to?
Is it okay to go over the limit? No, never, ever, ever, ever go over the limit. Even if you can, like usually if it's online you can't, you'll get stopped. But think about those poor admissions officers who are reading thousands of these bloody essays. You don't make them any happier by going longer. Cut out 100 words. If it could be 500, make it 400. You don't have to find another 100 to fill it. It's not for English class. If you've done the job in 300, do it in 300. No, never go over. Because it's actually a hint that you're a student who doesn't follow directions. And college has a lot of things that you just have to do the way they're done. At Rutgers, we used to say, doesn't follow the directions test. You know, they like submit some crazy other thing that you didn't even ask for. Don't do it. Send them exactly what they ask for, not lots of extra stuff. Yeah.
Do you actually tell the same story to different colleges, or you have to think of a different story?
Okay. Do you tell the same story to different colleges, or do you have to think up different? So for your main personal statement, the 250 to 650 word personal statement on the Common Application or lots of other applications, write it once. Write the story that really reveals the most important thing about your character, and let that go. If you're applying to, say, 8 or 10 or 12 or God knows how many colleges people sometimes apply to these days. You don't have to, but some people do. Very, very specific to each college you're applying to. The difference between a great supplement essay and a mediocre supplement essay is research. Each college you apply to in the supplement essays, you should be so specific that it couldn't possibly apply to another college. Which courses would you take? Which clubs would you belong to? Which track in the history major would you pursue? And let's say you don't know what you want to major in. That's okay. Then you say, you know, I might possibly major in English, I might possibly major in economics, I might do this humanities major, you know. If you don't know, just make the best case for something. Or, I don't know what I'm going to major in, but I'm interested in these types of courses. But really specific. Like, if they call it biology, call it biology. If they call the major microbiology, call it microbiology. If it's biological sciences, like those details need to be exactly right. They can't be close. Because whatever the school calls it is what it's called. And it's really great to talk to current students at those schools. Lots and lots of colleges, you can chat with them online. You could visit, but there's virtual tours. But really get to know the places. You owe it to yourself. You're going to be there for 4 years. But it also will help you to get into places, to be really specific like that. Thank you for asking that. Okay, other questions? Yes?
In the personal statement, do you want to focus on one major character, or are you trying to emphasize as many characters?
Okay, another great question. In the personal statement, do you want to emphasize one characteristic or lots? So the biggest mistake that students make with their personal statements is trying to cram in too much like it's their resume, right? Like, more is better. It's in fact, if you think about what traits you want to convey to colleges, like just using myself as an example. One of my main essay in high school was about fighting for 2 years to get a homeroom where 5 kids who didn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance didn't have to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't actually care whether or not I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I was just standing up for the underdog. Swing. It took a long time. I had to work with the school board and the principal and lots of stuff. My mother actually thought that it showed my aggressive side too much, and that colleges wouldn't like it, and that it was really, like, dangerous. She also thought that I used some big words that I shouldn't use, but they were actually words that I knew and I loved them. One of them was pejorative, which was one of my favorite words at the time. And the way the essay evolved, this is what I want to tell you. It was really about my conversation with my high school to try to change my high school. I thought it was about, it started out sort of fighting for the underdog. But as I explored it over a lot of different drafts, it turned into something else. So one of the things about stories is they kind of have a life of their own. And there will be days when you think you're just finishing it and it takes off in another direction. And I always encourage students to just let that happen. Because there's something in the creative, innovative parts of your brain that's like just exploring something. You might use that draft, you might use an earlier one, but I would say let the shape of the story, let the story shape the essay. Like, don't worry so much about the topic or exactly what it shows about you. It's like, let the story go. Let the story unfold as a story. Does that answer your question? But less is always more. Like the person who said about the sentence is too long, short sentences are better. A couple of very specific details is better than a laundry list. You know, tight is good. Succinct, poetic, really good. Yep.
How do you know which story to choose out of all the stories that
So, what grade are you in? Yeah, so students here who are younger, I would urge you to just explore lots of stories. And days when like stories happen, something crazy, you know, I don't know, like I work in New York, so like sometimes I have conversations with homeless people, and occasionally they're meaningful. When that happens, I just write it down in my kind of storybook for later. On those days when things happen, just write some notes so you have them. And I think you'll know. I mean, I think you'll really know. What I tell students about, like, how do you know if it's, like, what makes an essay successful? How do you know if it's done? If you feel like all of you is in there, and that when somebody reads this, they really get to know who you are. And like, it's just it doesn't even matter if you get in or not, because they'll know you. First of all, if you do that well, you'll get in. But that feeling of, yes, this is me, this is like completely me, yes, which by the way, no one else can figure out for you, that's how you know. Answer your question? We're running out of time? Okay. So, thank you very much. I'm really happy to meet you and talk to you. Remember, students, tell the stories that only you can tell, and tell them as only you can tell them. Thank you.